on a Diamond, Dr. Rogers, bringing you a quick video on dealing with individuals that are close to you who may be incarcerated. There are a lot of us that have someone that we know, someone that may be close to us that is incarcerated or maybe has been incarcerated. So what I wanted to do in this video was just give a few quick ways that you could deal with an individual or individuals that may be close to you that may be incarcerated at any given time. The first thing that I wanted to touch on is try not to cut off communication. I know sometimes people get in trouble and you get upset and you don't understand why they did what they did, or maybe they promised you that they wouldn't do certain things again, and you don't want to talk to them. You don't want to hear what they have to say, but you want to try your best not to cut off communication. If they are reaching out, genuinely reaching out, trying to communicate with you, especially if you have, certain factors that come into play, like it may be someone, a spouse or someone that you have kids with. You want to be a little slow to cut off the communication altogether, unless the communication is negative or is counterproductive to what you are trying to do for yourself, with your family, for your kids or whatever. Just try to keep that line of communication open, because you may have questions that you want answers to. Maybe your kids have questions that they want answers to, and you want to keep that line of communication open so that some of those hard discussions can take place. A lot of people don't like having those discussions, but sometimes those discussions need to take place. So you want to keep that line of communication open and try to keep it as positive as possible. So if you see that the communication is going in a negative direction, just try to redirect that conversation into a more positive direction. And if you can't, then that may be when you may need to, if you're on the phone, get off the phone. If you're writing a letter, maybe, go ahead and end the letter, try to end it on a positive note and go about your business. The next thing is try not to be ashamed or allow people to hold you responsible for someone else's behavior. Let's say that you had a spouse that did something. Say that you had a parent that did something. You had a sibling that did something, and they are incarcerated for, whatever reason. Try not to let anyone guilt you into taking the blame or feeling some type of way about something that someone else did that may be close to you. And even bigger than that, the person that may be incarcerated, don't allow them to guilt you into feeling some type of way or accepting some responsibility for their actions, or making you feel guilty because they're in and you're out, unless you actually had something to do with the reason that they're in there. Then that's a whole other discussion. But don't take on that burden, and don't allow anyone to give it to you. All of us, we're all responsible for our own behaviors. And even if you are involved in something with someone else and someone ends up getting in trouble, we are all still responsible for our own behavior. So just keep that in mind. Don't allow someone else to make you feel ashamed of someone else's behaviors. The next thing is, whenever you do communicate, try not to throw what happened up in the person's face. And when I say that, it's not that you don't talk about it if it needs to be talked about, but like you get upset and you say, that's why you're in there and I'm out here. You get mad, or they say something that pisses you off, and you have to remind them exactly where they are. I can assure you that they don't need a reminder. They have 24/7 reminders of exactly where they are. Again, discussions need to take place. You definitely need to have some honest and sometimes some uncomfortable discussions about things that may have transpired, but make sure that you're doing it in a place that's not of ill will or malice, trying to make someone feel worse than they already do about the situation that they're in. And during that discussion, you want to make sure that you're honest. And I want to be very specific on this. You want to be honest about what you're feeling. If they hurt you, if you were affected by whatever behaviors they participated in that put them in the situation that they are in, then you definitely want to be honest about how you're feeling about something, as long as you don't use it as a weapon. You're not using it to try to hurt someone. So just try not to use that as a weapon. The next thing, you got to be real. You got to be real with them. You have to be realistic. Again, be honest with them. Don't lie to them. And this is very important because this could go a few ways. When I say be real with them, you don't want to be real with them to the point where you're trying to destroy them. You're trying to crush them. But if there are real things that happen, real things that need to be discussed, you're having a discussion and you see that they're not being realistic about what's going on or what did go on, what transpired, why they may be in there, things that they may have participated in that help lead up to the situation that they're in, you want to be realistic. And if you hear them being unrealistic about what happened, then that will be the time to try to bring them back. Don't allow them to pull you into that, and if they're not being realistic about the situation that's going on. You want to make sure that you encourage them to own up to their behaviors. You always want to encourage them to accept responsibility for their behaviors, for their actions, because once they do this, once they're able to accept responsibility for their actions, then they can accept the situation that they're in, and they can find ways to manage the situation that they're in, whether it's going and participating in programs, doing some self-evaluations, going and talking to somebody, maybe getting some treatment, some therapy that they didn't get on the outside. Maybe they need to be in a drug program. There may be different things that they may not have thought about had you not had that conversation with them. So you need to make sure that you're always being honest in those conversations, because ultimately it's about them becoming productive members of society whenever they are able to return to society. And they're going to need that same honesty when they get out. So make sure that you're being honest with them when they're in, and maintain that honesty when they get out, and that realism, just being real, keeping it real. The last thing that I would say on this one is give them the opportunity to change. You have people that have been locked up for a long time, and as time passes, as long as we're human and we experience things, we are going to change in some way with time, good or bad. And the thing is, a lot of people, because they may have known the person that went in and they knew that person to be a certain type of way, then it may be hard for them to accept the fact that they may have changed. But if you have somebody that's actively participating in programs, they're trying to learn, new skill sets. They're trying to learn how to parent, because some people, they weren't doing the right thing on the outside. Some people were never really parents to the kids that they have. Or maybe they knew how to be parents, but maybe they're in programs learning how to be better parents. Maybe they're learning how to properly handle situations. Maybe they're taking conflict resolution or anger management groups. These are things that you definitely want to encourage them to continue doing and acknowledge that they're doing, especially when you remember the person that they used to be, or the person that you used to know. So you definitely have to give them an opportunity to do something different, and try to remain positive about it. Keep encouraging them to do something different. So anything that they're doing to try to put a positive spin or bring some positivity to their lives, definitely through programming, through reading, by talking to you about what's going on and explaining to you that they actually accept responsibility. Recognize those things Every program that they tell you that they're in, recognize it, acknowledge it, give them kudos. And I mean, you don't have to go and be fake about it, but just acknowledge the fact that someone is attempting to change. And what you want to do is encourage them to direct that energy that they have and to stand on the right path. And if they're already doing it, then encourage them to continue directing that energy to stay on the right path. So these are just a few things that I wanted to touch on, because at the end of the day, even when you have people that are incarcerated, that the key word there is people. You are still dealing with the human, and to err is human. We all make mistakes. The thing is trying to get people to do the right thing, and do the right thing not because they have to, but because they want to. So whenever you have a chance to try to drop any type of positive energy or drop any knowledge that would be beneficial to them, that could help them be a better person, then that's something that you definitely want to do when you're dealing with someone that is close to you that is incarcerated.